Welcome back to rSteven. I'm your host Steven, who has never messed up, except for that one time. And today we have a crazy story of someone who messed up by almost putting an end to their neighbor at 3 a.m. on the street. We'll get into that royal screw-up and a number of others in a bit, but first, today I messed up by taking my significant other to Bed Bath & Beyond after anesthesia. This is a story we always tell at dinner parties. I feel like I owe him that, so I figured I might as well share it here. So this was around the time The Good Place was airing. My partner had abdominal surgery. I've personally never experienced anesthesia first or secondhand and was nervous enough about my significant other going under. After discharge, the nurse told me, amongst a million other things, to take him straight home. However, my partner sounded super lucid and went on about wanting to get bathroom organizing stuff at Bed Bath & Beyond now that he's done with the surgery. It made enough sense that I agreed. I left him in the organizer section while I was looking for an associate to help with a high-up item. Maybe 5 to 10 minutes later, several employees were jogging to that section, and I get there, and my partner was basically loudly yelling at people in a completely out-of-character way. Like, I've never seen him yell or be violent, but he was trying to yank off one employee's hair. Later on, he tells me that his first memory after the OR was waking up in Bed Bath & Beyond, and he thought that this was heck and the store employees were devils, just like The Good Place. He has zero memory of him convincing me that he's fine and wants to go to Bed Bath, or what happened with the employees. For what it's worth, we are still together and now both laugh at the story, but at the time it caused quite a bit of drama. Both because he felt I dropped the ball, and most people thinking I'm horribly irresponsible. I also felt sort of uneasy for a bit, processing if my partner might hurt me in a lucid dream, but luckily he's been his sweet usual self. Next time he has surgery, he's getting locked in his room for a week. Edit, thankfully nobody got in trouble and the employee wasn't hurt. I had his discharge packet in my pocket, and mall security and the employee were sympathetic to me, profusely apologizing. Edit 2, just to answer some common replies en masse. It was a small hernia repair, and I saw maybe a 1-inch tiny incision. I'd been worried sick leading up to it, and everyone told me that this is a super minor procedure, which admittedly let my guard down too much. The nurse gave a bunch of discharge instructions, mostly about wound care and medication. The one sentence about going home didn't really register in my mind until later. Wanting to redecorate and reorganize was very on brand for him, so knowing nothing else, it wasn't a red flag. I was mindful to not let him lift anything, but the fact that he was still drug impaired didn't cross my mind at the time. I'm not trying to make excuses, but it was genuinely a mind freak to my young self that my significant other talking to me lucidly about something he wanted to do is something I should ignore. Of course, now I know what anesthesia is and what I did wrong. So, in review, I just have to say, I'm grateful that I haven't had anything recently in like the last 10 or so years that have had anything to do with anesthesia. It feels inevitable that it will happen at one point or another. I mean, everybody gets old enough at some point that they're like, all right, it's time for a colonoscopy. All I can say is, I hope I don't come to in the middle of a Bed Bath & Beyond with some employee's hair in my fingers. Last thing I want coming out of anesthesia and getting my wits about me is feeling like King Kong on top of the Empire State Building. You Go To Box left a comment on the post saying, once after a procedure, I convinced my driver I was fine. Made her take me on a shopping spree, and then gave a bunch of my unopened mail to my dog, who loved to tear up paper. She told me I said I was showing off his trick. Woke up to a bunch of crap I didn't remember buying, and shredded mail everywhere. Good times. And also, if you want me to show you my trick, you gotta make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. Our next story is, today I messed up by calling a patient diabetes. Fake names for anonymity. I'm a 25-year-old dental assistant. My usual routine for getting patients from the waiting room to the dental chair goes as follows. 1. Read the patient's name. 2. Read their medical history and circle anything they marked down so I can easily enter it later. And 3. Call the patient's name and walk them back to the room. Super simple, right? So as I'm doing my usual thing, I see the patient marked diabetes on their medical history. I circle it and walk around the front desk to call his name. Instead of saying Marcus, I say diabetes loudly and confidently before my heart sinks to the floor. My face turned bright red. I looked over at the receptionist, who looked confused, and put my face in my hands before turning around. I didn't even correct myself. Everyone in the waiting room looked so confused. I literally didn't know what to do. So I went back to our assistant office and told the other assistant what happened with tears of embarrassment in my eyes. She thought it was hilarious, and after the embarrassment had worn off a little, it kind of was, but it was also a huge HIPAA violation. If I had called his name after shouting what was on his medical history, I feel like it would have just made things worse. Eventually, the other assistant agreed to seat my patient for me, so it was less obvious. I told my boss about it later, and she wasn't as amused as the assistant. She told me to be more careful with patient information. I think this might be one of those things that keeps me up at night for years. Cringe to death. I feel like what OP did would be like if we hired elementary school bullies to take over these assistant jobs. Carpal tunnel, do we got a carpal tunnel out there? Diabetes, come on diabetes. Accidentally fallen on strange foreign object? I repeat, is there an accidentally fallen on strange foreign object in the waiting room right now? Alonist99 left a comment saying, poor old diabetes. Bet he inherited Marcus from his parents. Mental Mentalist replied, Mr. Johnson, please call me diabetes. Mr. Johnson was my father. Our next story is, today I messed up by traumatizing a pregnant woman. I, 28-year-old female, gave birth to my son 3 months ago. I did not have the easiest pregnancy and labor/postpartum recovery. For full context, I was induced at 39.5 weeks pregnant. After about 23 hours of labor, I asked for an epidural. It took the anesthesiologist 1 hour and 15 minutes and 20 tries to try to get the epidural in. After all the attempts failed, we decided to give up as it was just too painful. About 10 minutes after, I went into shock and my son was born via emergency C-section. I ended up spending a total of 6 days in the hospital from the day I was induced. My son was born healthy, but the epidural failure caused some temporary nerve damage in my back that ended up lasting 3 weeks. The pain from both the C-section and my back, plus a newborn baby, caused me to barely sleep the entire time we were at the hospital. So here's the part where I freaked up. As we were getting on the elevator after being discharged, a visibly pregnant woman and her partner walked into the elevator with us. They smiled at us, at our baby, and then she asked with a big smile on her face, "Did everything go well? Labor and recovery?" For the life of me, I still don't know why I responded with the most deadpan, expressionless face, "No." It took me a few solid seconds, and the look of absolute horror on both the pregnant woman and her partner's faces for me to try to do some damage control. I added, "But that's the beauty of labor, it never goes as you expect." Wrong answer. They both quickly turned away, and my husband just turned to me with a look of utter bewilderment. This interaction still haunts me 3 months later, and I cringe so hard at both my response and my attempt at a recovery. If you ever read this, I'm so sorry. Edit, I really appreciate every comment, and seeing all the replies has helped me realize that we really do need to talk more about birth trauma and recovery, and it's okay to not be okay. Sending love to all the parents out there who know the pain of a traumatic birth, or just the pain of having a baby. In review, you can't fault OP for saying no, they were truthful. Like, let's break it down. Realistically, the only reason they were feeling so positive when they asked that question to OP is because they know on the other side, there's going to be a baby. But in reality, the question they posed to OP was almost akin to somebody going in for wisdom teeth removal, seeing somebody on the wheelchair getting wheeled out afterwards with the gauze in their mouth and going, "How'd it go? Was it all right? Did it go good?" It was wisdom teeth removal. It was delivering a baby. How good can it possibly be? OK Effective left a comment on the post saying, "Honestly, this is an iconic response. A deadpan no. Don't ask questions you don't want the answer to." Our next story is, today I messed up by getting arrested over 3 pomegranates that a guy thought were apples. Obligatory, this happened on Tuesday, and yes, it's exactly as stupid as it sounds. So I'd been working all day, had soup on the stove, and realized I was out of pomegranates, which are basically the only food my anxiety lets me eat without a full-blown panic attack. The grocery store is 2 streets away, a simple 5-minute walk. Easy, in and out and back home to finally relax. So I stop at the dollar store first to grab my grandfather a Sudoku book and some chocolate. Then I head into Freshco with 2 bags. 1 dollar store bag, already paid for, 1 empty green reusable bag for groceries. First thing I grab, 3 pomegranates. They're awkward to carry, so I toss them into the green bag and keep shopping. I grab cherries, which I balanced on my fingers, juice boxes, and a Freshco gift card. I check out. I even buy a bag at checkout to put them all in. What do I forget? 3 pomegranates, the only thing in the green bag. So I pay, grab my receipt, and start walking out, fully in go mode because my soup is sweating on my stove at home. Right before the doors, a random guy dressed like a normal shopper steps in front of me and says, "You didn't pay for those apples." Immediately, I'm like, "What apples? I don't buy apples. I don't like apples. I don't even think about dang apples." So I'm like, "I didn't buy apples. Leave me alone." He insists. I insist. Then he suddenly goes, "That's it. You're under arrest." Like, excuse me? At this point, my brain still hasn't connected apples to pomegranates because 1, they're not apples, 2, I already paid, 3, my brain is fried from the lack of sleep and stress from working all day. Then he points at my bag and it finally clicks. "Oh crap, I forgot to pay for the pomegranates. I'll just go back and pay." He replies, "Nope, too late. You had intent to steal." I had not left the store. I had not passed the doors. I was still in the little area before leaving the store. Doesn't matter now because I'm now a hardened criminal. I guess he got intimidated by the tattoos and black hair. He escorts me to the back room, reads me my rights, which I later learned he legally should not have done, tells me I'm being charged with theft under $5,000, and says I'm going to jail. Over 3 freaking pomegranates. So there I am, panicking, straight into flight or fight. Thank you, anxiety. I start shaking, crying, I threw up on the floor, stuck trying to call my veteran grandfather, who I look after, who was waiting for me at home, while also thinking about my soup probably setting on fire at home. They tell me the police are on the way. They are not. I sit there for 4 hours. 4 freaking hours. The store closes at 10 p.m. It's 9:30 p.m. Police finally call and tell the loss prevention guy they're not coming tonight and to just release me. So they do, but not before trespassing me from the store for a year. I've been going to the store since I was 12 years old, where I shop multiple times a week, where the owner literally custom ordered items for me. Now here's the kicker, folks. So the guy thought they were apples, eh? Apples are $1 each, and pomegranates are $4.50 each, on sale for $2. So he thought I was stealing 3 apples worth $3. Edit 1, this is not AI. I was recording as it went down, as I knew there's something wrong about them detaining me and reading my rights, especially bringing me into a room with no cameras for 4 hours. Edit 2, for context, I'm 5 feet 2 inches, and this guy was like 6 feet. I'm a 22-year-old woman, and he looked to be a man in his mid-30s. I should have also mentioned that I'm deaf and use hearing aids, and at the time I was leaving the store, I was listening to music. And if you know about listening to music with hearing aids, you can't hear much other than music. It's not like earphones, you have to disconnect them via the mobile app to hear anything outside. I do have video proof of everything, but I'm unable to post it here. So in review, while it wouldn't be a route that I would love to take, I think OP's best course of action is honestly trying to either reach out to that owner personally, which I would like to do, or the one that I wouldn't love to do but is make a big public stink about it. Try to raise awareness that you didn't realize you were almost accidentally taking $3 worth of fruit with you. You offered to go back and pay for it. Wouldn't hurt if OP dropped in the fact that they were wearing hearing aids when that went down, and that they detained you for over 4 hours over $3 worth of fruit. Mama Palooza left a comment saying, "Try speaking to the owner. He or she knows you." OP replied, "I spoke with the owner and he said he's the person who gives the bans, but only by the reports the loss prevention gave them, and that he won't do anything else except come back in a year." Our next story is, today I messed up because I freaked out after reading a message from the school nurse. My corporate office is in a dead zone. I saw the nurse called, but with no ring, so I read the transcript. OP's son was in my office today and his tongue fell off. There are still little bits of it in his mouth and we need to know what to do. So I look at my colleague and jump up and start calling the school nurse, but the call won't go through because I'm in a dead zone. I finally go outside and finally get the nurse on the phone and ask her, "What are we doing? Are we going to the hospital?" It turns out the actual message stated, "OP's son was in my office today to get his medication, but the medication was on his tongue and fell off and now there's little bits in his mouth and we don't know what to do." As in, she didn't know if she should just give him another dose or not. But for 20 whole minutes, I thought my son's tongue fell off. It did not, in fact, fall off. In review, as time goes on, automatic transcribing is getting better and better for sure. But there's still plenty of improvement to be done, especially a lot of creative flexibility. Obviously on my videos, I have the actual posts on the screen and all the words, so there's no need for the YouTube captions. But if you turn them on, for example, they still don't understand what OP means. You'll see OPIE in the automatic YouTube transcribing. Harry Mall left a comment saying, "Never go by the transcript. My family member thought another family member died because she read the voicemail transcript and didn't listen to the voicemail." Hovercraft Do replied, "I read one, and apparently my 78-year-old mother had just had a baby," which was odd because I'd seen her about 4 hours before the voicemail. Turns out they were home after stopping for dinner on the way. Our next story is, today I messed up by slapping a bearded man's butt because he was dressed like my wife. This happened yesterday. My wife was wearing this obnoxious neon orange North Face puffer jacket. It's the kind of jacket you can see from a different zip code. We were at Target, she went to the candle aisle while I headed to electronics. I finished up, walked towards the candles, and spotted the back of that orange jacket leaning over a bottom shelf. Being the funny husband, I decided to sneak up, gave a solid, playful, "good game" slap on the butt, and whispered, "Found you, nerd." The person stood up. It was not my wife. It was a muscular man with a full beard wearing the exact same neon jacket. I froze. My hand was literally still hovering in mid-air. He just looked at me, deadpan, and said, "I mean, it's a nice jacket, but maybe check for the beard next time." I didn't even apologize. My brain just short-circuited. I did a 180 and walked straight out of the store. I didn't even wait for my wife or the stuff we were supposed to buy. 10 minutes later, I got a text from her. I saw the whole thing from the next aisle. I'm not coming out until I stop crying laughing. Have fun with your new boyfriend. Edit/update for those who are asking. RIP my inbox. I didn't expect this to blow up. For those asking how the guy knew about the jacket, this thing is an eye-searing neon orange that you can probably see from orbit. When he turned around and saw my face going through the 5 stages of grief, he looked past me and saw my wife standing about 10 feet away. Since she was wearing the exact same human traffic cone outfit, he instantly put 2 and 2 together. He actually pointed at his jacket and then at hers while shaking his head, like he couldn't believe his bad luck in picking that specific color today. I think the bottom line here is until you know for sure that that is your nerd, you don't go slapping that nerd on the backside. I've even heard at least a handful of stories of similar situations, but when the partner is actually an identical twin. You know, it's all fair ground and fun and games to give your partner a smack on the backside because I feel like realistically most people do it. But imagine the horror if you went and did that and find out, no, you didn't smack your wife on the backside. You smacked her identical sister. Honey, it isn't what it looks like, I promise. Sparks left a comment saying, "The fact that your wife witnessed it is what makes this something special." Pink Kissy replied, 100%. If she had missed it, it's just you committing a random target felony. Since she saw it, it's now forever an inside joke, and you've got a new check for the beard rule. Our next story is, today I messed up by being so tired, I accidentally referred to my cat as if he were my genetic relative at the vet. It all started when my cat Schrodinger got sick a few days back. This morning, when I was looking forward to a lazy day after 2 super busy ones, he started pooping blood again. So back to the vet we went. He's fine, he just once again ate something that he shouldn't. It is that cat's goal in life to find things on the floor he shouldn't eat just so that he can eat them. Menace. But while we were there, the vet inquired about his size, saying he was very large for his age. I explained that he was a Maine Coon and that they get really big, and that his dad Hades had a really broad, heavy bone structure, and that Schrodinger had inherited it. She just gave me a look and told me to watch his weight. And I just stood there for a second and then said, well, weight gain does run in my family. The silence was deafening. Even Schrodinger looked up from his current position in the sink. I sighed and said, it's okay, I heard it too. I'll just see myself out. In review, to be fair to OP, I'm pretty sure my dog is my genetic child. I don't need a paternity test. I don't need to go on Maury. That dog is my child. Frankie Tuesday left a comment saying, I was talking to a lesbian couple about their child's curly hair. I said, she must get that from your side of the family, to the wife who didn't birth the baby. Idiot. This next story is, today I messed up by accidentally swallowing wintergreen oil and nearly ended up in the psych ward. Not today, but a few years ago. Here goes. So I heard wintergreen oil can help inflammation. I bought some to put into lotion and massage oil for my messed up knee. After I poured a few teaspoons into a little cup, I made the mistake of holding the tiny measuring cup with my mouth while I opened the container I was going to mix it in. Big mistake. Little cup shifted and dumped the liquid into my mouth. I didn't think much of it. An hour or so later, I don't feel so good. I double-checked the original bottle and noticed that it says external use only, dangerous if swallowed. I dig deeper and find that the active compound in it is related to aspirin, and the amount I swallowed was equivalent to taking around 70 aspirin. I go to the ER, they get me back quickly. Doctor is making calls to poison control. I get asked several times if I deliberately ate it. I said no, that it was on accident. I end up being transferred to a larger hospital and put in ICU. Psych is called because it was an overdose case. Having a depression diagnosis made them even more serious about it. Psychiatrist keeps asking how, why, and again if it was intentional. I tell them honestly that it was an accident. Psych isn't believing me, and at this point, the toxic symptoms have peaked. I felt terrible from the side effects. He gets in my face and asks, "Why do you want to die so bad?" Me, confused, answers, I don't, that's why I'm here. He keeps pushing it, and I melt down and rip him a new one. He asks why I'm being so angry and defensive, then proceeds to tell me that I belong on a behavioral health unit. I calm myself down and gently remind him it was accidental, not deliberate. He says that he'll see what happens when ICU gets done with me. I get out of ICU within 24 hours, but remained in a regular room for 2 more days, each day him checking in, thinking he's going to prove that it was on purpose. Final day, he gets my same answers and was still fishing for any inkling of thoughts of self-harm. I'm finally released since he has no proof other than it was a bizarre-sounding accident and that I have a depression diagnosis. So I don't outright completely disagree with what the guy was trying to do here. Clearly, they were trying to figure out, is there any sign that this was some kind of intentional thing? And maybe the way he handles it works for a lot of people who are in that kind of a situation. But even if it's effective, I don't think it's fair to subject a patient to that. I mentioned this recently in the past, but I've been watching a lot of House episodes recently, and in one, there was a patient where they were a danger to themselves, and House outright ordered a 72-hour psychiatric hold. It kind of sounds like something similar happened to OP here, where they were held for 2 extra days after. Just, monitoring them and every so often poking and prodding trying to find something that could allow them to hold OP even longer or get them on a psych ward. Bella Farrenrod left a comment saying, "If you had done it on purpose, I'm sure that you wouldn't have been helpful. What a jerk." OP replied, "I told him if I did this on purpose, then why would I have come in? I can assume that had it been an attempt but changed my mind, yeah, his actions still would not have been helpful for that either." Our next story is, today I messed up by exfoliating while drunk. After our New Year's Eve party, came home a little drunk with the boyfriend to my place. Hopped in the shower, legs feeling a little bit rough, so drunk me decided to very quickly rub them down with my exfoliating brown sugar body polish. I grabbed a handful of it and went to town, rinsed off and hopped out of the shower. Next morning, I'm awoken from my boyfriend calling from the bathroom in an extremely concerned tone, asking if I was okay. A little hungover, I got out of bed and saw him standing outside of the bathroom, staring inside in horror. I peeked over his shoulder and started to laugh until I couldn't breathe. In my drunken rush to exfoliate, I apparently slung that body polish all over the shower wall and up to the ceiling. Fresh out of the jar, the stuff has the consistency of sandy diarrhea. It hardened into a thick crust onto the shower wall, all the way up onto the ceiling in a spectacular pattern, as if somebody booty blasted an upset stomach. You could see where my fingertips ran through parts of it and everything. Through my laughter, I finally just uttered the words out, "Smell it!" He replied with a horrified, "No!" I spent the afternoon chiseling brown crust off the bathroom ceiling while horrendously hungover because his mother was coming by that evening. I apparently missed some that got outside of the shower, and there were small puddles of crusty brown drippings between the shower and the toilet. His mother found them while using the restroom and pulled me aside, letting me know that, if my son did that, tell him to clean it up. I tried to clarify that it was just exfoliating cream, but she gave me a knowing smile of pity before she left. Glad this happened after Christmas dinner. Not looking forward to Easter. I just have to ask, was that a report there by the mom at the end? Why was she so certain that it was her son that did that? Why did they pull OP aside and say, "Listen, I think I know what's going on here. Tell him to be a little bit more cleaner. I feel your pain." I mean, growing up, how bad was their aim on, I guess, both ends if their mom cannot be convinced that it wasn't their son booty blasting everywhere? Stop the Crazy left a comment saying, "I thought it would be a good idea to get super stoned and do laser hair removal on myself. Burned armpits are the gift that keeps on giving." Our next story is, today I messed up by explaining my mom's job very, very wrong to my boyfriend's family. I'm Brazilian, and when this happened in 2013, I'd been living in Ireland for about 2 years. My English was good enough for everyday conversations, but my vocabulary was limited. This detail is important. This was the very first time I met my then boyfriend's parents. It was at a Sunday lunch at his parents' house. Nothing formal, but it still felt like a big moment. We had only just started dating, and I remember being extra careful, trying to be polite, charming, and generally not say anything stupid. I didn't really know what kind of family they were yet, and even though I'd never personally experienced prejudice in Ireland for being Brazilian, I had friends who had. So I was very aware that this lunch could go badly. We were all sitting around the table, eating and chatting when the friendly and expected interrogation started. Where I was from, how long I'd been in Ireland, how many siblings I had. All normal, all easy. I was starting to relax and feel like I was doing fine. Then someone asked, "So what does your mom do for a living?" My mom is an artisan. She does crafts, scrapbooking, painting, handmade things. In Portuguese, you would casually explain that by saying she works with her hands. My brain latched onto that phrase in Portuguese, did a terrible split-second translation, and before I could stop myself, I said very calmly, "Oh, she does hand jobs." The reaction was immediate. My father-in-law and brother-in-law burst out laughing. Not confused laughter, not delayed laughter, instant, uncontrollable laughter. My boyfriend laughed too, torn between laughing and trying to keep a straight face. At the same moment they started laughing, I realized what I've just said. My brain finally caught up and went, "You just told them your mother gives hand jobs for a living." I was mortified. I wanted to cry right there at the table. My face was burning and my English completely disappeared. My boyfriend tried to break the laughter in silence and said something like, "She means that her mom is an artisan. She works with crafts, scrapbooking, and painting." The mother-in-law and sister-in-law immediately jumped in as well and shut it down, saying it was obvious what I meant and that it wasn't funny and to stop. I appreciated them more than I can properly explain. Lunch continued. I survived, barely. Fast forward 11 years of marriage and 12 years of knowing them, I love them dearly. And yes, this story has now become part of our family's Christmas tradition. Every Christmas at some point, someone brings up the hand jobs incident. I can laugh about it now, but that first Sunday, sitting at that table, I was convinced that I had just completely embarrassed myself beyond recovery. Glad I didn't. There's one last part to the story. I've never told my mom. She absolutely adores my husband's family, even though they don't speak the same language at all, and I know that if she had heard this story, she would be mortified. So for now, the story lives with us, Reddit, and the Christmas table, but not with her. You know, all I can say is, I would like to meet OP's mom. Mighty Texan left a comment saying, my mother-in-law is a 100% native English speaker, and at one family gathering shouted that I fingered her when she actually meant I flipped her off. She still hasn't lived that down, almost 15 years later. This next story is, today I messed up by almost stabbing my neighbor in front of his cat. I, 26-year-old female, was walking my dog at 3 a.m. in the pitch black dark, and as she's taking her sweet time sniffing everything in my yard, a large figure comes barreling out of the dark from around the side of my house. My dog immediately backed onto my feet as she's trained to do, and I flipped open my emergency cake cutting device, prepared to defend myself from whoever was rushing me. I'm a small stature female and live in a very sketchy area of town. The figure, that I can tell at this point is a larger man, stops about 3 feet away from me, and as he raises his hands in the universal surrender gesture, he, hands still raised, points behind me and just goes, "My cat got out, ran that way." That's when it hits me through the sheer terror. It's my neighbor. The poor man was trying to catch his cat and was met with a growling German shepherd and a knife-wielding woman in Stitch pajamas. I quickly told him to go ahead and get his cat and put the knife back in my waistband. As he walks back by me, giving me a very wide berth, he holds up his cat like evidence and goes, "This is Skittles. Sorry to scare you." Same is all my adrenaline-addled brain could come up with. Well, at least OP got to meet Skittles out of it. I'd call that close to being a win. OP didn't get abducted or attacked. I'd call that a win for sure. Jakiwa left a comment saying, the cat probably wouldn't have cared much, as they tend to not care about much of anything. OP replied, I mean, fair, he was orange to boot, the cat not the neighbor, just to be clear. So I feel like he has minimal freaks to give. And also, if you don't want to be like that cat that has minimal freaks to give, why not check out another crazy Today I Messed Up story in the video on the left? Or if you somehow didn't give enough freaks and missed my latest video, you can check out the video on the right. That said, the next time I give some freaks, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.